Hey folks, welcome to this second video lecture for week number 1. So this is week 1, part number 2 for our Leadership Essentials class. I'm Christina, and in this video, we're going to walk through the 5 levels of leadership as described by John Maxwell. And you'll notice in our course shell, you have a handout that will go along with these slides and with what I'm sharing with you. You'll want to make sure that you either print and read that or read it from the PDF in our course shell. So the 5 levels of leadership is basically a leadership development framework that talks about how influence grows over time. This was created by John Maxwell. It's listed in his book called The 5 Levels of Leadership. And one thing that's really important to consider as we look over these 5 levels of leadership is they're not permanent achievements, and a leader can hold different levels with different people simultaneously. And so you can see we've got the first level, which is all about position and rights. So the people follow you because they have to. In that second level, it's all about permission and relationship. People follow you because they want to. And then we move up to the third level, which is about production and results. And in this level, people follow you because of what you have done for the organization. And then there's the next level about people development and reproduction of leaders. And this is where people start to follow you because of what you have done for them. So level 3 is kind of about the reputation of the leader. Level 4 is about what the leader has done for the individual or the individuals. Level 5 is what we call the pinnacle level or the respect level. And people follow you here because of who you are and the quality that you have. And when we think about what we learned in our last lecture about values, this is where a leader will have really strong values that are evident to those that they're leading. So let's take a look at these different levels. Again, the handout in our course shell will give you a little bit more information, but we're just going to take a quick kind of overview here. So level 1 is where every leader begins. At this stage, the person's authority derives completely from their title. So they might be called a manager, they might be called a supervisor. In this level, decisions are top down, so they're made at the top, and there's not a lot of input from the team. The team members do what is required, and there's very little discretionary effort. Like they don't do extra in this with this type of leader. There's a high dependency on policy, rules, and HR escalation to handle any of the interpersonal or other issues that come up. Employees feel monitored rather than supported, and feedback typically flows one way from the manager to the employee. And in this level of leadership, that feedback is rarely in the reverse. So, what that means is the leader is not looking for feedback from the employees or the people that work on the team to see how they could do better. In the article that's listed in our course shell, it gives some information about how you move beyond this level of leadership, this positional title-based level. And it talks about taking time to understand individuals, so building relationships, listening with intent, not just listening with the desire to respond, which we sometimes all do. Inviting different perspectives before making decisions is also really important. I like to say in that it's important to make sure we have all the right people at the table when we're talking about decisions. Do we have all the right stakeholders? Or do we have just the top leaders of an organization? That's an error that often people will do. To move beyond this level, you can also be consistent, fair, predictable. Your credibility is built through the things you do every day, in and out. So that's level 1, the position and rights level. Let's take a look at level 2, which is about permission or relationships. Now, in this one, you might remember people follow you because they want to follow you. At level two, people basically are giving you permission to lead them because they like you as their leader. They value the dynamics that you share with them. And at this level, this is when people start to realize, oh, leadership is not just about the title or the authority bestowed upon me with the title. It's really about that personal connection. In this level, people aren't forced to follow, they want to be led. And ways to grow at this level is, like we said earlier, listen to understand, be consistent, follow up on what people share with you. And in your handout that's in our Blackboard shell, there's a few more tips for you to grow at this level. Taking a look a little deeper at level, or a little higher, I should say, at level three is all about position and results. So this is where leadership starts to kind of gain some weight. At this stage, people follow you because they've watched what you do, they've watched what you deliver, they've watched what you can do. You've moved from being someone who manages work and workers to someone who drives and inspires outcomes. So here, you're more of like an influential leader. And when we think about what results accelerate leadership credibility here, remember, credibility is the foundation of everything in leadership. You can be trusted, you can be well liked, and genuinely invested in your people. But without a track record of results, your influence kind of taps out at a certain point. So you can make sure that your results based credibility is built on evidence. When you consistently deliver, when you solve tough problems, when you always tell the truth, even when it's tough, that's when you make gains in this level. Also, results give credibility to challenge the status quo. In lots and lots of organizations, the permission to drive or advocate for change is informally tied to your track record. So, if you've done a lot of really good work, if you've made really good impressions, you can be trusted for doing what you say you're going to do, then you get the option to challenge the status quo a little bit more, which is an interesting thing that comes along with it. Okay, let's talk about level four, which is all about people development. So in this level, this is where the leadership stops being about that personal performance and starts being about permanent impact. This is the level of leadership that I love so much because you're not only developing yourself, you're developing others. And at the end of our class, we will spend a module talking about building a leadership legacy and developing other leaders. I think that's really important. And that's that level four. So despite the strategic value of this level of leadership, it's actually rare because it requires a complete kind of rethinking or reorganization in your mind of what leadership success means. So, a leader who operates at this level four is the leader who is not so worried about their results, but they're worried about getting the people that work with them promoted, developed, and improved to the next level or the next state. And you'll see at the bottom of this slide, there's a really important note here. This level requires a really high level of self-confidence and the ability to let mistakes happen for the sake of learning. And so this is why it's sometimes called a rare level of leadership. And two things that really help in this level of leadership, the people development, is the knowing the difference between mentorship and coaching. So, mentorship is when the person needs some context that they don't have yet. It could be about organizational dynamics, career navigation, or industry knowledge. I recommend all my students, when you go out into the workforce, find a mentor to help you kind of learn the quote tricks of the trade or the rules of the road, however you say that. But finding a mentor is really important to help you kind of learn the things that you don't know yet. And then coaching is basically when a person wants to build their confidence, develop their thinking, increase their skills, and solve problems. That is what I do in my own individual business. I do leadership coaching for business owners and others. And so that's really where the person is building skills. So mentorship is when you need someone to show you the road. Coaching is when you need development in skills. So those are two things that often come up when we're talking about people development. All right, let's jump up to the top of our pyramid here with level 5. So this is the highest level, the pinnacle or respect level. This is really the culmination is what it calls it in our article. At this point, people follow you because of who you are and the quality and the values that you have. They've seen what you do. You can be called a leader of leaders because you represent what leadership looks like at the fullest and highest level. And these leaders lead from values, not circumstances. So they are consistent. They don't lead based on the circumstance. They lead from their values and their wisdom. Their ambition is directed outward, not inward. So they're thinking about the culture. They're thinking about this, what is going on for the team? How can we best serve the greatest number of people? They also operate on what's called a long time horizon, or they make the long plays, if you will. These leaders think in decades. Most leaders think in like 30 days or 90 days of a quarter. But these leaders think about in 10 years, what is this going to look like? And that's a mark of a pinnacle leader. These leaders also create safety for other people to lead. So, people in an organization where there are pinnacle leaders, they challenge the status quo regularly. They have a very distinct culture. They're willing to surface problems early. They can take intelligent risks and they recover from failure without fear of retaliation or extending situations. All right. So, in your handout, there is an optional leadership self assessment, the 5 levels of leadership. You're welcome to do that, it's not required. But at this point in our week, you've watched both of the lectures, hopefully. Now you're ready to do your leadership reflection assignment. And so, in these leadership reflection assignments, you simply are going to be typing out reflections about the topics that we've covered in class. And so just make sure you look at the instructions for the leadership reflection. This week, you'll talk a little bit about your values, a little bit about your influences, and a couple of other things. All right, folks, you are on your way. You've finished up the first week of lectures, and I look forward to seeing what we're going to cover next. All right, folks, have a great week, and let me know if you have any questions.